A Pilgrim in Austin, Texas, partly cloudy. 92 degrees of dry heat. 3 kilometers and a check-in after a while away. They'd been heads down building, deep in the Pilgrim app with Claude, turning a swarm of agents loose on the code until the tokens ran dry. About a model that launched and was pulled inside a week. About a tool closed to anyone who couldn't prove where they were born. About one country closing its source while another opens theirs, and who that leads to set the direction. About Fight Club, a duvet, and the things we buy that we never really wanted. New projects, and the quiet cost of distrust.
Hello, another beautiful day out, almost July, I think the last day of July, and it's not as hot this summer compared to previous summers in Texas. I think all the hotness went to the East Coast. I think right now it's like triple digits in Washington, D.C., along with some other states along there, and yeah, it's been weird. Dig it, but it's right now. I think it's like low 90s ish in the weather, and it feels pretty nice just being outside. Even though it's a little hot, it's like dry heat, so it's not that bad. Anyways, it's been a while since we talked, and I've been busy just building, chatting with Claude and all of that. I think last time it was Claude had just released Mythos, which within a week was banned by the government. It was like a whole crazy story about it. And within that week, I actually used it to put it to work. And it eats token like crazy, like a monster. And it chewed up, I think, something like 40% of it in like a day. And mainly I was just doing a deep dive on the Pilgrim iOS repo and seeing how to optimize it better, as well as looking at some of the issues that I have pinpointed before, and just let it go to town with all various agents. I think it was using the dynamic workflow, using the ultra mode as well, so it was draining even more the token. And luckily I did. I did that. I think it was like really close to maxing out the token before they, I think, either resetted it. I think they reset it, and because they closed Mythos or Fable. They closed Fable. So the government said, nope, you can't allow this to non-US citizens. So Anthropic just closed it for everyone because they have a lot of non-US citizens working for them, and they don't want to deal with the trouble of doing ID verification for everyone. So it closed everyone, and they reset the token as an apology. So luckily, the Pilgrim iOS, that workflow was done. So it did all of that research and came out with a report on what to fix. There was a lot of them, and I think it was a giant PR, which I haven't merged in yet. So just right now, it's still part of the testing process, seeing if everything is still working as it intended as before, with just better optimization, maybe also a few bugs fixed as well. And let's see how, if this makes it into as a podcast, then we know partly the working feature of the record works, as well as uploading the podcast. At least the meditation and walking works. I've been testing it with it. Also, at the same time, it's been, I think I spent over a month converting the iOS app into the Android, and it's finally done. The hard part was actually submitting to the Google Play Store and getting approved, because I found out that they require an app to be tested by at least 12 people for 2 weeks in order to be able to approve to use for prod. So that's a crazy thing that I didn't know before. And I think they started like 2 years ago, maybe just getting flooded with people doing random apps, because it only costs $25 to submit yourself as a developer for the Play Store, and then you can submit any amount of apps you want, and there's no limit. So I think this is a gatekeeping thing for people to stop submitting apps so frequently. So that's why they instituted that. So I found a solution, which is hiring another company, just the money extraction thing, another thing, to basically test it out for me, to test out all the features, and they give a report and satisfy the Google Play requirement, which it does. And that was that. So it just took longer than expected, but after 2 weeks, it was working, and finally got it submitted. And it's actually pretty fast once you fulfill all their criteria. And got it submitted, and it's working fine. But there was a lot of testing for each of the nuances of features and comparing them against the iOS version. So it took a while because there was so many testing, just checking out different things. Luckily, if you connect the Android device to the laptop it's developing on, it can actually test some of them for you. But the major ones, you have to do it yourself, which I did. And yeah, it looks, I would say maybe it's 90 to 95% of replica copy of the iOS. Obviously, some of the tools you won't able to get to use on Android because it's iOS only, Apple's own products, kind of own device features or APIs. And I had to find alternatives for those, but it's fine. And I think it works perfect with the Android version. I did notice some things about it afterwards, after 1.0 was released. And now I'm doing the 1.1 release for the Android to match what iOS is doing. So all of the bugs and features and optimizations from the PR, I had Claude review those and put them into Android as well. So right now it's done as well. And now it's just in the testing phase, I guess like the internal alpha testing phase, to see if all the features are working as is intended. And one of the things I noticed was during the sun solstice or equinoxes, the colors didn't change, as well as the kanji character didn't show up. And I think that was a thing that I missed on 1.0. And now that I saw on the Android device, it wasn't showing. So that's why I knew that the feature wasn't there. So I had fixed that, put that in, along with all the other optimizations. So let's see if the 1.1 rolls out smoothly for Android, and also the iOS as well. And yeah. Other than that, I made other apps too. I made one for reading. It's a combination of someone's birthday, input your birthday and location, and in time as well. And you get 3 different readings, human design, Jyotish, as well as Bazi, which is the Chinese astrology. And it's actually fairly accurate. I have one person that she said she was crying while she was reading it because she resonated really hard with the reading. So there's something to when we were born at this specific time, this specific location, that that's part of our kind of our incarnation, telling us what we need to work on in this incarnation in a way. Another thing I worked on was this Chrome plugin, Chrome browser plugin, that I saw another girl, I think her name is Zara, and then she made a tab out for herself, but she didn't submit it to the Chrome browser. And I think the browser extension submission is also $5, a gatekeep to submit your information as a developer, and it's like $5 to submit, but you can submit unlimited amount of browser extension afterwards. So I submitted this browser extension called ypuf.com. YPUF. It's like I guess like you puff away all of the browser, all of your tabs, and it will magically return, kind of thing. So you can. I know some people have crazy amount of tabs on their browser, so it drains all of their resources. But you can just let it automatically save the ones or puff away the ones that you're not using, because it knows after a certain amount of days, 1 day, 3 days, or 5 days, and you're not using it, automatically hides them. Or you can manually do it yourself, and then you can also search through all the things that you have saved or puffed away. There's a concept of ebb and flow. So you ebb, and then it comes back flowing back. You can also snooze, and you can set a time when it comes back. It's kind of like how Gmail does it. You snooze an email and comes back. So you can do that for the tab as well. I like it. I use it every day. It's part of my workflow. And also it's designed nicely to have the same design as the Pilgrim app. Has the light mode, dark mode, as well as the star or constellation mode, which is pretty cool, I think. And what else am I working on? Oh yeah, the language app, the Jivix. It's getting some traction and having some paid customers because of some viral posts on Hacker News about it, data related. I did one for train station, when the train station are constructed per year. And a lot of people find it fascinating, especially Japanese things. There's like the meme of you see a regular gas station, there's no reaction, but if it's a gas station in Japan, it's like, oh, that reaction, everything is cool in Japan kind of feel. There's something about that, I think, that resonates with people. Everyone who I talk to loves Japan when they visit it, because it's like a culture of its own and its own planet, weird vibe, a cool, awesome, weird vibe kind of thing. I was just chatting with a friend when we were at WeWork having lunch, and we were discussing the issue of trust, how I actually gave him an example of how that trust has such a big impact on the bottom line, that we spend a lot of money guarding trust, or not trusting people, essentially. I think one of the example I gave was the cash register, how basically employees back in the day, was stealing money, so thereby a new business was born. Some people were selling cash register, so when only a sale comes, you can open the cash register and input the money. Another example I think I actually witnessed was when I was in New York, I think there was a hot dog stand, and there was only the owner in the stand, and he didn't really have time. He was like so busy with making hot dogs and serving the customer, he doesn't have time to take the money. So he just have a jar of just trusting his customer gave him the right amount, or either the right amount or plus tip. So he just trusts that eventually it will work out. So it saves him a lot of time and money too, for just implementing that kind of trust. So it's very interesting that now we have even in a high trust society, we have low trust amongst the worker. There's still, I think, like the worker class and the executive class. There's the I forgot, his name is Vinesh Rauch or something. He's talking about The Office, how Office is like real life. The Office, the show, is like plays into different roles, almost like a Marxism kind of thing, a classist system, where the top level is the executives, who are the sociopaths, and then the middle layer, which is the middle managers, they're like the clueless, and the worker that actually does the work are the losers. And there's like the whole tier the 3-tier guarding it. And essentially, the sociopath communicates with the middle manager in order to push agendas to the manager for the manager to push onto the workers. The workers, they couldn't, either they don't know this is happening, or most of them understand this whole dynamic. So it's like play into the office politics of it all. And the middle managers do not know, because that's why they're clueless. And they don't know that they're part of, they want to move up to the to the sociopath level, but they can't. They're stuck in the middle. And yeah, in a sense, it's like that trust. I don't think we can ever go to eliminate it completely if you get above a certain level in a company, because it's just past the Dunbar number, it's just too many people to hold into intimate relationships with. So you don't even know them. It's kind of like an army brigade or something. Once you pass a certain amount of troops in your regimen, you won't know each of the soldier. So thereby, they're just a statistic. It's kind of like the saying, I think Stalin said this, which is, one person dies is a tragedy, but 1 million people die is a statistic, right? So past a certain number, we stop caring. Everyone becomes a number on the system. Just like working for a big company, you're just a cog in the machine. Like the higher people do not know you, do not care, and they just you serving the machine. And as the machine works fine, you're just replaceable. That you can just be replaced at any given time because you're just a cog. I think it's gonna make it even more true than ever with AI, because now you have machine replacing humans. I recently created an essay called the Oracle problem, which it talks about the gating of mythos, or these like frontier models. And basically the frontier labs, they're gating access to who can access to the top of the line models, just like what Anthropic did. Regardless what's actually happened, at least the narrative right now is like government is banning the higher tier, the mythos or the fable one. And ChatGPT recently released their own 5.6 with 3 different tiers of 5.6. And they also requires like verified identity or verified business. So now you're creating a separate system as well. And now we're basically utilizing AI as Oracle, basically telling us what we need to know. Our answers, any questions that we might have, we go directly to AI as the consult, as the Oracle. Back in the day where Delphi, you had to bring tributes to the Oracle, who show up, I think like 9 days out of the year kind of thing. And people in the higher tier class, the bourgeois, the elites are able to cut ahead of the line to see if the Oracle shows up or not. Now we're the same thing. Just the story never changed. Like 3,000 years later, we're still running the same playbook. And the same thing happened with, or I guess the opposite thing happened with, the Gutenberg press. Right, back in the day, it was a problem with speed. Monks had to copy down the Bible, and they can only go so fast. With the Gutenberg, you're able to print massive amounts and distribute it to everyone. Everyone gets that knowledge now. Same thing happened with the internet. When the internet happened, there's freely distribution of all kinds of information if you know what to search for. So back in the days when the internet was happening, it was like the Wild West. So you can basically, it was actually really cool. Like back in the days, like the GeoCities or MySpace. MySpace is already kind of changing the landscape a little bit, but like the GeoCity era, people making their own web page and creating whatever cool thing, creative ideas they have. It's awesome. And you can search for anything. That's why you have a free flowing of crazy cool ideas. But then the powers that be do not take that do not want that. They don't want people to access freely all kinds of insightful occult information. So they know they can't really shut it down because the internet is too powerful. They counter it by just polluting what's called like polluting the ocean with ink. Basically pollute the information sphere with disinformation, with all kinds of false information to dilute the good information from the bad. So everything is there. So it makes you not want to trust anything because you don't know what is true or not. And that's what we're fighting these days. You can have all kinds of different feeds feeding you different algorithms to fuel for the certain kind of things that you're looking for, as well as feeding these kind of negative emotions like hatred, fear, to push those onto you. And it's actually a bad thing because you're susceptible in that, and it's not good. We're basically being programmed, manipulated in a way by unknown. Everything is gated behind a screen, and we don't know who really controls it. And now with AI, it's even more prevalent. And AI is almost like a black box. No one really understands what's in it. And also the Frontier Lab. It's interesting. There's a war between the closed source and the open source models, and ironically, you would think the U.S. would be part of the open source movement, and China would be the closed source. But it's actually the other way, because it makes sense because U.S. is pioneering in those AI, in the top tier models. They're spending billions of dollars of training each of these frontier models and trying to basically get to artificial general intelligence first, and then later super intelligence. So they want to do like recursive learning, basically having AI training other AIs. And China do not have, I guess, like the resource nor the chips. They do have the energy to do all of this. So what they do is they wait for the models to come online and then just do a distillation attack against it. Basically, it's actually illegal for, I guess, for Chinese to use Anthropic's model or ChatGPT's model. So they have resellers online selling these accounts, and you have other AI companies in China who buys these resold accounts, and they buy in the thousands. They buy like 20,000 at a time to do distillation attacks, which means they will ask certain list of questions to the frontier model and get their feedback, and that's how they use in their training data to train their AI. And they can do it for a fraction of the price of the Frontier Lab. And this is what's happening, so they're able to release the open source model of it. I think a Chinese AI company called Z.AI released their AI model, I think like called Glim. Start with a G. I totally forgot the name. And it's on par with Opus 4.8. So at a fraction of the price. So in a way, governments, like Chinese government, this is great for the Chinese government because how they would attack now, because we don't attack kinetically, now we're using financial warfare. And how do you destroy someone's finance is through their stock market. And now our stock market is propped up by all these AI companies. If you look at the SP 500, the only thing that's really rising fast is related to AI. So everything is geared towards the valuation of these frontier AI models. So if you attack that, if you take away their customers and revenue, then they can't justify those valuations, and thereby it has to come down, and thereby it will collapse the stock market. So that's what the Chinese AI companies are doing, who knows if they're propped up by the Chinese government. And it's interesting how it's playing out, because the open source model are only a few months behind the frontier models. And if you're, I don't think a lot of people want to pay for the API way, because that's like way more expensive, and they can basically use the Z.AI's model and at a fraction of the price, and why not? And by closing source even more and creating that discrepancy between the prices, it's the U.S. is allowing the rest of the world to start to use the AI, the Chinese open source AI models, which is not good, right? Like, that means the U.S. is going to be fall behind even further, and then letting Chinese dictate where the direction is going to be. So it's very interesting how all of that is being played out right now. It's really fast, moves super fast, because AI and stuff. Yeah. I was gonna say something. I don't remember. Okay, so I thought I was recording, but actually a call came in, which I hadn't realized, and then it cut the record. I think it's working as it's intended, so that's good. But it cut for like 10 minutes. So I've been talking without recording for 10 minutes, and I have no where I stopped at either. And I think I was talking about how the American is doing the closed source way, as well as the Chinese is doing the open source way. How ironic that is. And the open source is actually about a few months away from catching up to the open source, and to the closed source, the frontier models. And I think it's a strategy by those AI companies in China to do this. And most likely, if they ever get the top tier, they would probably closed source it too. They don't want competition. In a way, the closed source, the open source way is to catch up to the competition. And the Chinese are doing distillation attacks, which they get tens of thousands of accounts to Anthropic and trying to ask probe questions from Claude in order to get the answer, and which are basically the reinforcement learning that they put into their model. And basically almost like it's like a copying technique. And they can do it at a fraction of the price. And they serve those open model for a fraction of the price in order to kind of attack the whole U.S. market, because the whole U.S. market is dependent on the valuation of these giant AI companies like Anthropic and OpenAI. So if you crush their revenue by having the user leave their platform to use the cheaper AI open source model, it will crush the stock market. And I think that's the strategy they're going towards. And the Chinese are betting on that the software level gets commoditized, so AI gets commoditized, and what the Chinese are great at right now with the infrastructure that they have already set up decades ago is the manufacturing. So they're betting on the hardware. So the AI would be the software piloting their hardware, and they're betting on that route. US does not have the manufacturing capability, although like Tesla and SpaceX is trying to automate a lot of manufacturing, but through the globalization, we hollowed out our manufacturing capacity. We don't even have the capability to build all these needed, I guess, like a bunch of war fighting machines. And that's why Anduril is trying to bring it back, trying to outfit the 21st century of fighting warfare using drones. Because right now you have old dated technology of missiles that cost like millions of dollars per round. And you have a drone that costs like a couple of thousand or even $10,000, and that's what asymmetric warfare that the Iranians doing. They're attacking the oil rigs, tankers on the Straits of Hormuz using these $10,000 or $20,000 drones to blow it up, right? They can just carry explosive and blow up the whole ship, which costs millions, like hundreds of millions of dollars, kind of thing. So it's like asymmetric for them, and it's not working well right now. So eventually we're gonna have to go on the hardware level, powered by AI, to have like these swarm drones, essentially, all piloted by AI, because no human would be able to coordinate that many drones all at once. You need like a super intelligence figure to do all of that. Anyways, I was saying that on Sunday I read a book I found a book in the library. I was just browsing through the library like I like to do, just go into like the, I don't know, spiritual section, I guess, and religion section. And there's a book that caught my eye. It was called The Buddha on Wall Street. And it was talking about, in the intro section, Buddha was giving almost like a parable. It doesn't necessarily need to be true, but just to teach us a lesson, where there was a village and the villagers were harvesting rice. And it went on for a while where they harvest the rice, they eat it, and they don't really store anything. Just they only store what they need. And then later on, a few villager got wise and clever and greedy. Is, why don't we store more of it, and so we can hoard more, so we can, save for the future. And you can imagine the rice is almost like a money, right? It's essentially, back in the days, food or energy. So, and money or energy. So, in a way, money, rice is energy. So hoarding money, and then by hoarding more money, they feel like they could become target of an attack by robbery or other people jealous of them. So they needed to hire security guards in the form of like a safe or just actual security guards kind of thing, or even a bank. They have a bank to hold their money, to hold their rice. And soon enough, they needed like a committee to say how many people this is the amount of rice that one can hoard all at once. So you needed like a committee, as well as, who's going to pay for the committee. Then you have tax, right? So committee becomes the government, and tax becomes just burden on everyone, because you need to hire this committee to do essentially a needless task, because if everyone didn't need this, then the committee will fall away. So they're talking about the trust thing. The biggest distrust is like our government. Like, government has such giant waste on everything. We're basically paying needlessly all of these unnecessary expense at the expense of not trusting, and also like the fear and the greed kind of thing. So I guess that's a lesson. And another thing from the book that I remember, it was talking about how communities, we're lacking community more and more these days. Back in the day, it was normal to have a community like ashram, where the monks can go, but now there's only like spiritual communities, but there's hardly any. But normal people do not have a community that they can turn into. We don't even really know our neighbors, and thereby we don't have communities. That's a big problem, and problems stem from humans not having community. Talking about like the Dunbar number and stuff like that. We do not have, there's too much layer in the hierarchy, so you don't really know everyone. Another thing it was talking about was it was a hypothetical thought experiment, talking about if you were to give blood to a blood bank, and it doesn't matter how the blood bank gets the blood, just they need extra blood to help the people who need blood. So is there any difference between you giving blood from yourself versus you paying like someone like a homeless person who actually need the money, you paying the homeless person $50 or $100 for him to give blood to the blood bank. It's like a win-win because he actually needs the money, and you actually want to see more people helped by having more blood. So is there anything wrong with that? But I think like there's a lot, most people or a lot of people would find it blasphemous to do this, right? Because it's almost like a sacrilegious kind of thing. Like how can we do this? Like how can we pay for blood, kind of thing, when it's like the default is by giving blood. There is no monetary value associated with that. Yeah, so I mean, just a thought experiment which I find interesting. So yeah, those are the three things that I took away from the book. There's also a lot of other things talking about the book in there too. Actually, I found that the book, or the quote Tyler Durden said in the Fight Club about buying material things, like he was talking about the duvet. Like, why do we need a duvet? Does the duvet really help? Why do we even know the concept, the word duvet, right? So we buy things for people we don't like, kind of thing. And I think that's actually find that quote, not very similar, in the book, talking about someone else.
Heads down and building anyway. Let the world spin its arguments about trust. He just keeps turning potential into the next real thing.